Hello guys, I hope you guys can hear me properly. So I'm Shifan Akram and I'm a biomedical science undergraduate. I completed my A levels in 2022 before 3 years ago. So in this session, I'll be discussing the 2024 GCE level biology MCQ paper. So I will be going through the answers, their reasoning, and the most common mistakes the students make in their paper. So, as this is an analysis session, this is going to be a very long video. So, for that reason only, I'll be dividing this video into few separate parts so that it will be very easy to understand. So, in each part, I'll go through each question, the answers, again, all the common mistakes that everyone makes in their paper. So, that's all for it. So, I think it's better we start the paper. Okay, guys, let's go through the first question. Which of the following is considered as the basic functional unit of life? So, this is one of the easiest questions to answer, but it is really good because it will really help you build your confidence to do the rest of the 49 questions. So, every year when they make the paper, they make the first question in a very easy way to answer. But even though they make it that way, some students even mess up that question. So here we can see we know the answer, it is the cell, because if you know the cell theory, the second principle of the cell theory suggests that cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. So I'll highlight it. I hope it is clear to everyone. But why can't we consider something like a tissue or an organ as a basic functional unit? So if you take a tissue, the tissue is made up of a lot of cells. So it is way more bigger than a cell. So it cannot be considered as basic. So something to be basic, it has to be the smallest entity. And if you take a tissue, for example, if you cut a heart tissue and take it out of the body, it cannot survive, unlike a cell. So we cannot consider them as a functional unit. So again, same for the organ. So organs are complicated, which are made up of lot of cells, and they interact with other organs to survive. So we can't again consider them as a single entity or a basic functional unit. But what about a nucleus or a DNA molecule, which are way more smaller than a cell? Why can't we consider them as a functional unit? So if we take a DNA, DNA outside of the cell is just information, and we have no use of that information. So same goes for the nucleus. Nucleus outside of the cell is useless. Nucleus has to be inside the cell to carry out all its functions. So both the DNA and the nucleus depend on the cell for everything. So everything here surrounds around the cell. So cell is the basic functional unit. So let's go to the second question. Which of the following statements is correct regarding carbohydrates? So the first answer is condensation reaction between two glucose molecules form a non-reducing sugar molecule. So a condensation reaction is a reaction between two monosaccharides that bind together to form a disaccharide, releasing water and forming a bond, which is also called a glycosidic bond. So two glucose molecules usually bind together to form something called the maltose. And maltose is a reducing sugar. It is not a non-reducing sugar. Always remember that the only non-reducing sugar that is given in the biology resource book is sucrose. So we have to eliminate that because, again, as I said, maltose is a reducing sugar. And the second one, they say glucose is a ketose sugar. No, glucose is an aldose sugar. So examples of ketose sugars are fructose and ribulose. Remember that if you have a notebook, please take a note of that. And the third answer is glucosamine is the monomer of storage component in fungi. So the polysaccharide of the storage component is chitin, and chitin is made up of glucosamine. So third one is actually the right answer, and I'll highlight it. Anyways, let's take a look at the fourth and the fifth answer. So the fourth answer says the galacturonic acid is the monomer of a structural polysaccharide in plants. So we all know the structural polysaccharide in plants is cellulose, and cellulose is made up of glucose and not galacturonic acid. So we have to eliminate the answer. But again, also remember that there is another storage polysaccharide in plants, which is called hemicellulose. But cellulose is the main polysaccharide, but hemicellulose is found less in plant cells. So the fifth question is again about hemicellulose. So they say hemicellulose is a branched polysaccharide made up of thioses and pentoses. So if you take polysaccharides, there are two types. They can be branched or they can be linear. So hemicellulose is actually a branched polysaccharide, which is correct, but they are made only of pentoses, not thioses. So we had again eliminate the fifth one. So third one is the right answer. So the third question is about the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. The first answer says a DNA molecule is present in the intermembrane space. So I'll actually draw the structure of the mitochondria so that you guys will understand it better. So, sorry. So this is the outer membrane of the mitochondria, and this is the inner membrane of the mitochondria. I'm not drawing this crystal. I'll draw it while explaining it later. So the space between these two membranes, the outer membrane and the inner membrane, is called the intermembrane space. So they are saying a DNA molecule is present in the intermembrane space. Usually the DNA molecule is found in the matrix of mitochondria. So this is the matrix of mitochondria. So we can eliminate the first answer because it is wrong. The second answer says enzymes required for the Krebs cycle are embedded in the inner membrane. So as we know, this is the inner membrane. So they are saying the enzymes are present in this part of the mitochondria. So let's take a look at that. So Krebs cycle is the second process in aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration has three processes. Remember that: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. So during glycolysis, the glucose is broken down into two pyruvate molecules, which occurs in the cytosol of the cell. And for the Krebs cycle, these pyruvate molecules enter the matrix of mitochondria, which is this part, for further reactions. So all the enzymes, if we think logically, all the enzymes should be in the matrix of mitochondria and not in the inner membrane. So we can eliminate the second answer too because it is wrong. And the third answer, 80 ribosomes and phosphate granules are located in the matrix. This actually sounds right, but let's take a look at that. So phosphate granules, yes, they are present in the matrix of mitochondria, and these granules are really important because this is where phosphate is stored and used for the production of ATP. But does the mitochondria have 80 ribosomes? No, right? Mitochondria is made up of the smaller, only 70 ribosomes. So again, we have to eliminate the first three answers because they are wrong. So it's got to be either 4 or 5. So the fourth question says that a pyruvate molecule is converted to an acetyl-CoA molecule by releasing two carbon dioxide molecules in the matrix. Okay. So during glycolysis, uh, give me a sec. Okay. So during glycolysis, a glucose molecule, okay, let me write it. So a glucose molecule uh, is broken down into two pyruvates. And each of these pyruvate is converted to acetyl-CoA by releasing a single carbon dioxide molecule. So each pyruvate molecule will release one carbon dioxide when it is converted to acetyl-CoA. So here they are saying it releases two carbon dioxide molecules, which is wrong. But most people confuse the pyruvate with the glucose and they choose this answer because glucose is broken down into two pyruvates. So the two pyruvates releases two carbon dioxide molecules. So a single glucose releases two carbon dioxide molecules, but a pyruvate only releases one carbon dioxide molecule. So you guys have to understand that and not get confused by the pyruvate and the glucose. So this is actually wrong. So we had to eliminate the first four answers. So it should be the fifth answer. So anyways, let's take a look at that answer. So they say cristae contain enzymes that are essential for oxidative phosphorylation. Yes, so I didn't draw the cristae earlier, so I'm drawing it now. So these are the cristae that are present in the mitochondria. So this comes throughout the whole cell. So I'm just drawing roughly, because it's really hard to draw using a pencil here. Okay. Uh, so these cristae has a very high surface area. So because of this very high surface area, reactions can take place here. So contains all the enzymes that are essential for oxidative phosphorylation. So fifth one is the right answer. So I'll highlight it. Okay. So let's move to the fourth question. Okay, this is about meiosis, which is the reduction cell division, which produces haploid cells. So they are talking about the telophase phase. Yeah. Which of the following occurs during both telophase 1 and telophase 2 of meiosis? So we all know that it's during telophase that the chromosomes that move to each side of the pole condenses, then the nuclear membrane reappears, nucleolus reforms. These all happens in the telophase. But let's take a look at the answers. So first they say formation of the spindle apparatus by the centrosome. So this is one of the first things that happens during meiosis. So it happens in the metaphase. So sorry, prophase. So let me write it down. So my meiosis division has four stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So formation of the spindle apparatus occurs in the prophase. So we have to eliminate that. And the second answer is moving of one chromosome of each homologous pair towards the opposite poles. So which actually happens in the anaphase, right? So it's during the anaphase that chromosomes move towards the opposite poles. And also remember in the metaphase, uh, they line up along the metaphase plate. So in the anaphase again, they move to the opposite poles. So we have to eliminate that answer too. And the third answer, decondensation of chromosomes into chromatin. Earlier, as I told, it occurs in both telophase 1 and 2. So it is the right answer and I'll highlight it. So chromosomes are condensed into chromatin. So anyways, let's take a look at the fourth and the fifth answer. So fourth answer says formation of two genetically identical haploid daughter nuclei within one cell. So this is not mitosis, this is meiosis. So there is no way genetically identical cells are formed. So in meiosis, it's always non-identical haploid daughter nuclei. So again, we have to eliminate this answer because it produces non-identical cells. And fifth one, again, this is shortening of microtubules of the spindle, which is same as the second one, because shortening of tubules pulls the chromosomes towards the opposite sides, which occurs in the anaphase, not telophase. So again, we have to eliminate the fourth and fifth one. So the third one is the right answer. So let's go to the fifth one. So this is about the plant physiology. So in addition to chloroplast, the enzymes that catalyze photorespirations are located in. So always remember one thing. When it comes to photorespiration, okay, so which is a process, a wasteful process that happens in C3 plants that uses oxygen instead of carbon dioxide to produce energy. This usually happens during hot climate when the stomata is closed. So always remember, when it comes to photorespiration, only three organelles are involved. It is the chloroplast, mitochondria, and the peroxisomes. So here we can see peroxisomes and mitochondria are present in the second answer, and we can highlight that. So what about the Golgi apparatus? Does Golgi apparatus has anything to do with photorespiration? So if you take Golgi apparatus, they are only involved in packaging and modification of proteins, right? As we have learned, and they have nothing to do with photorespiration. Again, the same with lysosomes. So they are involved in the lysis, cell death, and phagocytosis, as you guys remember. So phagocytosis is the process where phagocytes engulf foreign microbes and destroy them. So smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and they have nothing to do with photorespiration again. So glyoxysomes, which are type of peroxisomes, but they are not involved in photorespiration. So second one is the answer, and let's go to the sixth question. A product of the Calvin cycle that serves as a precursor molecule for glucose synthesis. Okay. So if we take Calvin cycle, so Calvin cycle occurs during photosynthesis, which is the second stage, which uses the ATP and NADPH produced during light-dependent reaction to reduce CO2 and to form glucose, so that the plants can make their own food. So if we take Calvin cycle, first the CO2, sorry, CO2 binds with something called the RUBP, as you guys might already know. This forms a 6-carbon unstable molecule, which breaks down immediately into 3-carbon molecules. So it breaks down into two 3-carbon, uh, 3-carbon, 3-PGA, 3-phosphoglycerate, 3-PGA. So this is the first stable product of the Calvin cycle. So they are asking which is the precursor molecule for glucose synthesis. So we can eliminate the first answer because it is the first product, so it cannot be the precursor molecule. So as the process goes, 3-PGA is converted to 1,3-biphosphate, biphosphate, sorry, phosphate. So 1,3-biphosphate is finally converted to 3 G3P, which is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, glyceraldehyde, aldehyde 3-phosphate. So glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is the final product, so which you also acts as the precursor molecule for glucose synthesis. So first let's highlight that. So that's the third answer. So we eliminated the first answer. So what about ribulose biphosphate? So ribulose biphosphate is the carbon acceptor, and it has nothing to do being the precursor molecule. Again, what is this phosphoenol pyruvate? So phosphoenol pyruvate is also called the PEP. So which act as a carbon acceptor in the C4 pathway. So because of this photorespiration, as I explained earlier, uh, which uses oxygen instead of carbon dioxide. So to concentrate the carbon dioxide, phosphoenol pyruvate is used because phosphoenol pyruvate can only bind with carbon dioxide and not oxygen. So even in conditions where CO2 is really low, it only binds with CO2, which is inefficient to help plants produce their own fruit. So phosphoryl pyruvate is the carbon acceptor in C4 pathway, and it has nothing to do with the cycle. Sorry, nothing to do with being the precursor molecule. So let's go to the seventh question. So the total number of ATP and NADH molecules produced by one molecule of glucose in glycolysis. As I explained earlier, glycolysis is the first stage of photosynthesis, which uses light-dependent reaction to produce ATP and NADH. So initially, uh, glucose is broken down into two pyruvates in this reaction. Glucose pyruvate, right? Pyruvate. So for this reaction to occur, initially two ATP is used. So in this reaction, two NADP plus is reduced to NADH. So let's write that. Okay, to NADH, and two ATP is also produced. So okay, the thing is, one of the answers is missing here, so I'll write that. Because I have edited this document, one of the answers is missing, that's why. Okay. So most of the students, uh, thing is they choose the second answer because they always remember the net ATP synthesis in glycolysis is 2 ATP because 2 ATP is used to start the process, and sorry, 4 ATPs are produced here. So and 4 ATPs are produced. So the net ATP is 2 because 2 ATP is used up, as I told earlier. So most students think it's 2 ATP, but the question they're asking the total number of ATP produced. So the total number of ATP produced is 4 ATP. And the total number of NADH molecules produced by the reduction of NAD plus is 2. So it's obviously the fifth answer, the 4 ATP and 2 NADH. I don't think I can highlight this because, okay, oh shit, sorry. Okay, yeah, I can taste it. Okay. So it's the fifth answer, remember that. So let's go to the eighth question. So which of the following statements regarding vascular plants is correct? Okay. Again, another question about the plant physiology. So the first answer suggests that microphiles of some vascular plants have branched veins. Okay. So vascular plants have three modifications. So vascular plants has xylem and phylum vessels, and they have roots and leaves. So if we take the leaves, vascular plants have two types of leaves, microphylls and megaphylls. So megaphylls have branched veins and microphylls have single veins. But in this answer, they are saying some vascular plants have branched veins. Microphylls of some vascular plants have branched veins, which is actually wrong because it only has single veins. So we can eliminate the first answer. Then they say roots were present in ancestors of modern vascular plants. As we know, even though uh, ancestors of modern vascular plants had xylem and phloem vessels and leaves, they didn't have roots. So we have to again eliminate the second answer because they didn't have roots. So 1 and 2 is eliminated. So the third answer is the presence of stomata is unique to vascular plants. Here, I think we have to think a bit logically. So why is a stomata used in the first place? It is for the gas exchange. So do you think only vascular plants do the, carry out gas exchange? No, right? Even non-vascular plants carry out now gas exchange because they have to produce their own food. So stomata is present in both vascular plants and non-vascular plants. So we have to again eliminate the third answer. So the fourth answer says some vascular plants have symbiotic gametophytes. Okay. So if you take vascular plants that are on the land surface and that undergo light dependent reactions, they can make their own food using photosynthesis. But what about the vascular plants that are underground? I mean, they have no reach for light. How will they produce their own food? So they form this relationship with the fungi underground. So the fungi nourish the vascular plant with food. So this relationship is called symbiotic. So they are considered as symbiotic gametophytes. So some vascular plants have symbiotic vascular gametophyte. So it is correct. So it is the fourth one. So I'll highlight it. So what about the fifth one? Flagellated sperms are absent in vascular plants. Yes, of course, they don't need flagellated sperms, and most of the vascular plants lost it because most of the time in vascular plants, reproduction is carried out through the pollen tube. So they don't actually need flagellated sperms. They don't need mobility. But some plants has not evolved and they still contain some flagellated sperm. So this answer is also wrong because certain plants do have flagellated sperms. So it's the fourth answer. Okay, now let's go to the ninth question. Okay. So which of the following combination of plant phyla and the gametophyte is correct? Okay. So here again, I have missed two answers here because I have edited the document. Okay, let me write that first. Bryophyta, which is a non-vascular plant. So they are saying Bryophyta is dioecious. So which is correct because Bryophyta has two plants. One plant has the male gametophyte and the other plant has a female gametophyte. And Pterophyta are photosynthetic because they are independent and free living. So they have to make their own food. And Psychodophyta, which is one of the gymnosperms, so which is a seed plant, and one of the important features of a seed plant is the reduced gametophyte. So actually, the third one is also correct. So the correct answer is fifth one, A, B, and C. And I can't highlight it because edited it now. So let's go to the 10th question. So some features present in two animals labeled as A and B as follows. So yeah, here they have given some of the features of certain phyla and we have to find which phyla they belong to. So the they talk about the endoskeleton closed circulatory system and so we'll write it down so that you guys can understand it properly. Yeah. So first they're talking about the endoskeleton, right? In the endoskeleton. So open circulatory system and as a coilums. See themselves. Okay. 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 Is this spelling correct? What am I doing? No, it's wrong. LOA, right? COE. Okay. So what are the phyla that contains an endoskeleton? So there are only two phyla that contains an endoskeleton and they are Echinodermata, Dermata and Chordata. So sorry, not open circulatory system. A has closed circulatory system. So if you take closed circulatory system again, Echinodermata has a closed circulatory system, but they are closed without a heart. Always remember that. Uh, Dermata again. Again, Chordata also has a closed heart. And if you take phyllas with a coelom, a lot of phyllas has a coelom. So Echinodermata is one of it again. So the answer is, what did I do now? Okay. So answer should be either Echinodermata or Chordata because all these features should be present in one phyla, right? One phylum, sorry. So again, Echinodermata, okay, okay, and Chordata. So it's got to be either Echinodermata or Chordata. So the B1, they are saying the exoskeleton open circulatory system and gills. So let's take a look at the phylums that have all of these features. So skeleton, open circulatory system, and gills. So if we take the phylums with an exoskeleton, we have Erythropoda, right? Erythropoda, Erythropoda as an exoskeleton. Then we have mollusks. They also do have an exoskeleton. So again, same with open circulatory system, right? Erythropoda has an open circulatory system. Erythropoda has open circulatory system, and mollusk also has an open circulatory system. But what about gills? Yes, Erythropoda has gills. Yeah, right. And again, Erythropoda has gills. So gills and mollusk also has gills. So if you ask how can mollusks have gills, remember all the organisms in the phylum mollusk, they even have octopus. So something like an octopus has gills, right? So remember that. So let's look at the answers. Okay, let me. So the first one they're saying chordata and nematoda. So nematoda doesn't have an exoskeleton or open circulatory system, so we can eliminate the first one. And the second one, chordata and echinodermata. So chordata and echinodermata belongs to the A1, right? So we have to eliminate that also because echinodermata doesn't have an exoskeleton or an open circulatory system. And again, the third one we have to eliminate it because Annelida doesn't have an endoskeleton or closed circulatory system, right? So let's see the fourth one, Echinodermata. Yes, it has an endoskeleton. Yes, has a closed circulatory system, and it also has a cilium. And Mollusca, yes, it has an exoskeleton, open circulatory system, and gills. So this has to be the potential right answer. Anyways, let's take a look at the fifth one. So fifth one is Nematoda and Erythropoda. So again, Nematoda doesn't have an endoskeleton or a closed circulatory system. So we have to eliminate that. Even though Erythropoda belongs to all the features in B. So it should be the fourth answer, Erythropoda and Mollusca. So I'll highlight it. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the 11th question.